Hi, Real Truth listeners. Today I have Rob Ferguson. Is it originally Robert? Is that kind of official or?
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah, that's my official name, Robert. But depends if you're in the family. I was called different names,
Yeah.
but everybody knows me as Rob.
What was the worst name that they'd call you?
Uh, well, I don't know. I don't want to mention that the worst name. My dad had an acronym that he called me when I was a little kid called TH, and it stood for toe head because I was very blonde. I had hair back then. But my sisters turned it into turd head. So how does
Mm,
that? So that would have been a little family nickname that I got.
gotcha. So yeah, you're CEO of Ferguson Alliance. I mean, helping and correct me if I'm wrong, helping businesses grow to the next level. Is that kind of a
Yeah,
basic synopsis, I guess?
yeah. I think we help them grow to the next level and pass their business on to the next generation, if that's in their plans. If not, we help the founder exit their business as successfully as possible.
I mean, the usual like failure rate is pretty high, right? Of business transitioning from next to next. Is it, I, someone was talking about before, it was 50 or some 50, 80 or
Yeah,
how high was the number?
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different research out there, but I'll just give the round numbers. About 80%
80%.
survive through the second generation. Okay,
Mm,
and then it drops down to about 35%, and then it drops down to less than 5% to the third to the fourth. So,
wow.
and another interesting statistic for you and your listeners is in 2022, the average lifespan of an S&P 500 company is 15 years, and for a family-owned business, it's 24 years. So family-owned businesses still are more resilient than non-family businesses. However, in the 1950s, the average lifespan of all businesses, they didn't separate the two, was 60 years.
Mm,
So the lifespan of businesses has really declined immensely. And that's the whole premise as to how I got this firm started 14, 15 years ago. Was I see that as a major kind of issue for our country, is expanding the life cycle of family businesses, because family businesses are that's the growth engine of our economy. They're the primary philanthropists in our economy. That all of our critical innovations have come from family businesses, and they employ 70% of our employees in the country. So it's a big deal. So that's what our mission is trying to help expand the life span of family businesses.
so do you think it's mostly to planning, or is it more like the person that's taking on the role of running the business doesn't have as much want in running the business as maybe the founder does?
So I think it's some of that, but what I really attribute it to is change. If you think about change that's occurred from the 1950s to where we are today, 2024, we have seen a lot of change, and it happens faster than ever before. And so having the agility to manage a business through change, primarily driven by technology. I mean, in the last 24 months, we're all talking about AI, and we have labor unions on strike because they don't want AI to enter their workspace. Well, so this is just change, and I think it's because leaders were not prepared to get themselves individually through change, and then they were never taught how to lead an organization through change. But then yes, I think the other part, it's all about change, right? That when you change leadership, was that leader really fully prepared? Is that leader really engaged into the organization? Is that leader going to change the rest of the organization to be able to perpetuate their lifestyle? So I think it's really, I think that's what it really comes down to. The second area that it comes down to is we're a different society. Back then in the 1950s, we were not a global economy. We were very regionalized. You think about it, we were probably even localized. There were not national chain stores from coast to coast. There was not national banking from coast to coast. And so your economy was really in your backyard, and you could manage and control it, and you could see it and you could feel it. And we were very much an agrarian society back then, and we're not today, right? We're very industrialized, and we're moving away from even just industrial manufacturing. We're becoming a service oriented economy, and we're very much into technology. So I just think those macro issues have caused been a primer for the cause of the life cycle of family businesses declining.
Gotcha. Now let's rewind it. I mean, young Rob, was he always planning to start his own business down the road, or what was his original plan?
Well, my original plan is after I got out of college, I went straight into the Army and was a junior officer, and I had this big dream that I wanted to start my own business, and it was going to actually be in an agriculture business, and I was excited about doing that. Got out of the Army and I went to work for a very large company. Actually, it was a Weyerhaeuser company, and they were in timber. And I thought, well, I could go in there for 5 or 6 years, kind of learn, the business of timber, and then I'd go start my own. It didn't work out that way. But what was exciting for me is it led me to the opportunity at a very young age to participate in a leverage management buyout from this behemoth public company. They were spinning off their specialty products division, which I was part of. We had this little $30 million business that I was a manager of at 28 years of age. And there was 4 other guys that were given the opportunity to buy the business. And they said, "Hey, you want to join, Rob?" I said, "Well, certainly." But I had no money. I had nothing. And so I was just recently married, and thought, well, we're best to go get money then from my new father-in-law. And so I said, "Look, you let me have your only daughter and your only child for my wife. How about handing me your pension plan and let me invest that for you?" Yeah. And he said yes, if you can believe it. It wasn't the entire amount, but it was a significant amount. And so I think that was my first first experience of starting a business, even though it wasn't mine. It was knowing to take risk. And I knew I was betting on me, and I was betting on the team. And I also had a lot of naivete. But 5 years down the road, that $30 million business became greater than $120 million in revenue. I'm just giving revenue numbers. And then we were able to have a recapitalization event and brought in some private equity. And so we were able to get our original money back. And the happiest day for me was being able to give my father-in-law his money back with a little bit of additive on top, to make sure that he knew that I was a good guy. And so anyway, he was really happy about that. And then we eventually took that company public. Eventually I became the CEO of that. And so it was it was never really my business. But I always wanted to have my own business. And after that, I was still in my early 50s. I wanted to do that same thing again. I partnered with some private equity firms looking for another business I could buy as opposed to start up. And we never got a deal across the line. We made several offers, but it never worked out. But I was invited to help turn around a family business that was 100 years old. 17 cousins were involved in it. And, my job was to go in and fix the business and then sell the business because the cousins weren't getting along. And so we successfully did that with the team that I hired to bring in, and myself as the turnaround CEO. And I was learning about family businesses at that time. And similarly, I was invited to sit on a board of directors of another very successful family business in Georgia that had, I don't know how many, it's probably 70 family shareholders, part of it, but they were very successful. And so I learned, how did they become so successful from generation to generation, from the first to the fifth? And why did the business I was working in not become successful from the first to the fifth? So that's where I really learned a lot of the basics. And I just fell in love with family businesses and this whole notion of we can fix this problem. We can, if families want to do that, and we can successfully go from one generation to the next generation through best practices. Or if that's not what you want to do, we can actually sell this business or monetize the business for the family, but put the business in a great place where it can thrive and grow for the employees. So from there, my wife asked me one Christmas, probably 15, 16 years ago, said, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. She said, well, do you like what you're doing? I said, well, yeah, but it's not a business. She said, why don't you start your own business? I said, okay. So I made my decision to start my kind of sole proprietorship consulting business. And I ended up getting 3 clients my first year, and help them with their challenges. And today, I don't know, I've got 4 other advisors and 3 support staff that works for us. And we're currently we're not a big shop, but we're currently helping about 20 family businesses right now at any one time. So that's our story.
Let me rewind to that 28-year-old Rob when he
Yeah.
borrowed his money from his father-in-law. All right, because I think that's huge on the pension, right? I mean, I know you
Yeah.
talked about being a little naive. Do you think like if you were 38, you'd be able to actually ask that question and have the
Probably not.
okay,
No. The older you get, I think you know more. And knowledge is great, but knowledge can also stymie um, innovation or creativity, or just risk taking. I think that, you know, every business owner that I know that has started a business with a credit card and then grown it to millions of dollars are risk takers, but they've become really good at learning how to take calculated risk, and they're constantly looking at risk and benefits. But the one factor that they're always betting on is themselves. What they're, and they believe they can really add value. I do work with some like family offices, and they'll get off into making investments in other family businesses that they don't know anything about. They're not passionate about it, and they think, oh well, I'm just going to be a passive investor, and it never really works out for them unless it's kind of a unicorn business. um, so I think that knowledge is very, very important, but that naivete that I had, I mean, it could have gone upside down. It could have not worked, and I would have felt bad about it. But I knew me well enough that no matter what, he was going to get his money back, no matter what I had to do, no matter how many miles and miles of ditches I was going to dig, he was going to get his money back. So that was my motivation. So I think every entrepreneur I know has that kind of motivation. Every entrepreneur that I know has always had the boot on the neck at some time and have figured out how to remove the boot on the neck and then be supportive and help others. And, it's just it takes courage, in my opinion, to start a business or to go ask for money and from a family member. But you've got to be committed, as I was. I mean, I was committed all the way that my father-in-law was going to get his money back. There was not any reason why he would never get his money back.
how do you, I guess, walk that line of having the boot on your neck and not leaning into, I guess, depression or I can't do this, and compared to I got this, I have to do this, this will happen.
Yeah. Well, for me, here's what I do is I have, because when that happens, right, you start hearing voices. You hear and you start developing an echo chamber. that, oh, what have I gotten myself into? These are all the bad things that are going on. There's no way out. And I just ask myself, is that true? and I find out that with the stuff that I'm hearing, or maybe the stuff that other people are telling me, it's not true.
Mm.
And so, for one of the things that this has taught me, that I help teach other CEOs, is that there's always a solution to the problem, always. But you may not like it, but there's a solution. There's a way out. You're not in a boxed room with four corners. The room's round. There's a way to get through this. And I think for me, that is how I deal with concern, or how are we going to deliver on this project, or how am I going to make sure I got enough work in the pipeline for another new advisor. Those are the things that I so it's resiliency, I guess. But it happens. But I think it really helps for entrepreneurs, particularly, to have a really good advisory board, even if it's really informal, that folks can mentor you and tell you the truth, even if you don't want to hear it, even if you don't like it. If you have that small group around you, you can get a lot accomplished.
I would think that, I guess, that mindset of taking in the positive and the negative from an advisor is probably easier with, I mean, bigger companies, I guess, CEOs, instead of mom and pop. Or do you see a difference, or is it more on the individual? Or
No, I mean, one of the things I like to do, just because I love business, is I'll help a few startups, or I'll help somebody that said, "Hey, look, this is my brother-in-law. He's gotten into problems with his business," and I have found that it doesn't matter what the size of your business is, or what stage the business is. If you can just develop a community of trusted advisors at the very early stage, you're going to do so much better than if you didn't. If you're trying to go solo, going solo is hard. In my early days, I know I was betting on myself, but the four guys that were with me, I was betting on them too, and I had high degree of confidence, and they were 20 years older than me. Okay, so I had a lot to learn. They were my mentors, and yeah, I just felt like I had a really good support group around me, and I did, and it worked out very well.
if you were to, like, describe, or maybe someone listening right now, they're like, okay, I need to get a group around me, or I need to get an advisor. What are some qualities you would say they should look for in that advisor?
Yeah, that they bring value, and what I mean by they bring value to you is they have information, knowledge, expertise, skills that you don't have, and you need it. Um, so if you're a really great financial person, and how to capitalize a business, and you're really strong at accounting, but you know nothing about e-commerce, and you're trying to start an e-commerce company, you better find somebody that's really good at e-commerce.
Mm.
So you want to find subject matter experts, industry experts, and then, as well as, I would say, business generalists. And somebody, if you're going to be a startup, you're going from zero to something, get somebody that's done that a couple of times, that can advise you. If you're trying to do a friends and family raise, get somebody that's done friends and family raise. How did they do that? How did you approach the family? How did you approach the friends? What was the kind of structure you put together? If you're trying to raise private money, how did you do that? Who did you talk to? You want to get those folks in your ethos that can mentor you and teach you and share experience, as well as make connections for you, right? That's the other thing.
How long did it take for you, when you started your consulting business? I think you said around 15 years ago, to,
Yeah.
like, figure out what your competitive advantage was for, I guess, businesses that were going to work with you?
Oh, it did take quite a while. When I first started out, I was just doing taking anything I could get, right? So you want me to help you here, I'll help you there. It was probably about 3 or 4 years into it. I started really refining my value proposition at that time, and so I would say, yeah, 3 to 4 years. But when I was about 7 or 8 years into it, I was really missing the having the team. I was a sole proprietor. I was doing really well. I was more of a kind of a lifestyle business. I mean, the business was supporting my lifestyle, and I had a lot of flexibility, but that's not really what I enjoyed. I enjoyed building things, and I thought, well, let me see if I can build a consultancy. I've never done that. I'm not a professional consultant. I'm just a business guy, right? That's all I've ever done. Um, so I made that decision maybe in year 7 or 8, and I got a little cold feet. So I kept working on my business model, my value proposition, and then one day, what really spurred me on is a um, a local CPA firm talked to me about maybe bringing me into their company and buying my book of business and helping them build their practice for family business consulting. That's when it dawned on me, that, oh wow, there's some real value here if these guys want to bring me in. So I spent a year talking to them about it, and it just didn't make sense to me that I would have to give up a significant amount of my kind of profit stream to do what I wanted to do anyway. And so that spurred me on to, I don't need to have this big firm to help me achieve my goals. I can do this on my own. Or maybe I went back to how about if I bring in some partners? So I started talking to a couple of individuals that I really enjoyed working, and we have done projects with. I collaborated with them. I bring them in with help some of my clients. So we already had a good working history, and they were younger than me. One was in his late 30s at the time, and the other one was in his late 40s at the time. So I thought, this is great. COVID then hit, and those two said, no, 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 I don't want to do this now. This isn't the right thing. And so that was another catalyst for me. Well, I'm going to do it. I'm still going to do this. And so I started putting some structure in place. I really worked, but the first thing I knew I needed to do before I hired a bunch of advisors was I needed a marketing machine, and I didn't know how to do that. So I hired some people that knew how to do that and got my marketing machine built and invested a lot of money in that. Then I built a sales machine. Then I started building a recruiting machine, and just started putting the pieces together, and here's where we are.
I mean, when you're a sole proprietor, or as like you said, lifestyle business, it was, I guess, you helping out each business, right, with your own knowledge. Right. And when you started adding on other partners, I mean, did you have to bring that collective of knowledge into some kind of binder, some book? This is how we handle it with one company, or what did that look like in kind of building it out to like a bigger than just you company?
Yeah, that's right. And we're still working on that, but we now have. So the first thing is I'm looking for advisors that are senior executives from family businesses, that they're not consultants, and that they have some subject matter expertise, financial, organization development, process management, whatever it may be. So they're already skilled, and they can go in and advise, particularly in very specific areas, but they're also generalists. So in some ways, they're a little bit like me, but they're very different from me. And so anyway, so they're already coming in. But I have to teach them how to do marketing, how to do business development, because that's not what they've done. And then I help them. How do we convert prospects, our leads to prospects to actual clients, that process. So that's really where I've been spending most of my time with these professionals, because everybody that is an advisor here, they're professionals. I mean, they're well tenured. They know their stuff as well, if not better than me in many cases. With that said, we do have certain programs like executive coaching programs, leadership development workshops, management training workshops, strategy development workshops. So we have they're not products so much, but they're projects that we sell. And so with that, over time, we have built the manual of, okay, how do you conduct executive coaching? What's our process? Well, how do you do a strategic planning workshop or a management training workshop? So, and we have all the collateral for it, all the presentations, all the tools, all the work papers, everything that you would need to be successful at running a workshop. But every client we customize. That's the other thing. We don't sell products, so to speak. We don't sell a book. So we'll have maybe the workshop 75, 80% ready to go. And then the balance, we customize it to meet whatever the client's real needs or issues are. And then we'll do that. So that's where we're working on that to help, but it's more on the marketing side as opposed to the delivery side.
Are there particular clients where you have to turn away because they don't fit, I guess, what you're
Yeah.
looking, or don't think you can bring value, or what does that look like?
Yeah. Oh, we do. I mean, there's one of the things that our qualifications are is we're really trying to target middle market family businesses, so they're more mature. They're not startups. So that's a qualifier. The other thing, when we start with a client, we judge them on are they going to take our advice? If they're not coachable, if they're not open to the advice, we won't take the assignment. And then third, just what you said, can we really add value? If we don't believe we can add value, really help them solve their challenges, we won't take it. So those are kind of our qualifiers.
Is there a way that you do that to see if you can add value, or if they're going to take your advice? Is it like a test, or is
Yeah.
it just a simple like 30-minute conversation, or what does it look like?
Yeah, so typically what it looks like, all of our engagements will start with some sort of an assessment, and it has a small fee to that. And so when we work that assessment, depending upon what they think their challenge area is, that lets the prospective client know how we think about business and how we will be working with them, and it helps us see how open are they to our advice and our style. We use a Socratic style in delivery, and some clients don't like that. They want us to give them the process manual. They want us to tell them what to do and then go away. And we don't do that. We help our clients discover how to improve their profits, so to speak, as opposed to say, well, do these 5 things and your profit's going to be better in a year. We help them discover that. So we do this assessment process, and it typically takes 60 days or so. We do have some questionnaires, and we'll do a financial assessment and a non-financial assessment, and give them a report back and say, look, here's the challenges that we agree that you see, but here's some additional ones that we have found, and here's a potential path to get those resolved, but this is how you might sequence it, because the sequencing is what's most important than just here's all your problems. I mean, it's really easy to go point out problems. What's really tough is coming up with a plan to resolve those problems and then getting it in the right order of action. Because if you don't get it in the right order, you can actually cause more harm to a business than good.
How so?
Well, I'll tell you a story. With that business I was telling you I was hired to do a turnaround, the family board of directors told me that they had lost about $20 million of sales, about 20% of their revenue. And all I needed to do was to fix this business, was to get the revenue back. It was primarily an industrial packaging distribution company. So, I mean, that kind of made sense on paper. Yeah, I see that their fixed costs stayed the same, but they lost 20% of their revenue. And so now they're not making money. I kind of get that because they're distributors and working on thin margins. But before I started putting the accelerator down on the sales, I did my own assessment on the whole organization. And one of the things that I found out as I was doing my personal assessment is that they're on time, in full, kind of, it's a metric we look at in delivering to their customers, was very low. It was like 67%. they were delivering on time in full their orders to their clients. That's 67% of the time they got it right. That's not good. So can you imagine if we had pushed hard on sales accelerator? Let's go get the 20 million. Let's do what we can. But we're only going to do it right 67% of the time. It wouldn't work. The whole thing would implode. So that's what I mean about sequencing. So yeah, the right order. Yeah, we do need to get revenue, but if we don't fix our operational practices, if we don't get that on time in full delivery rate up to 98%, we're in big trouble. We can't survive. And so that's what we focused in on first, and then we went down our list.
Thank you so much, Rob, for being on the podcast. I'm going to finish off one last question before we get there. What's the best way of people reaching out and getting more information about maybe other podcasts you're going to be on, or maybe they have a company that looking to expand, looking to grow? What's the best way?
Sure. Okay. First of all, you can find me on LinkedIn, Rob Ferguson. You can also go to our website, Ferguson-Alliance.com. And if you navigate over to our media page, you'll see all the podcasts that we're on are coming up. And then you can also navigate to our resource page. There's just tons of information, videos, blogs, podcasts on various topics, all related on family businesses. So those would be the two best ways to reach out to me. You can drop me an email. That's also on our website. You can just schedule a meeting directly with me or one of my advisors.
So this is a last question, but also kind of a twofold question. The first one is, if we were talking in 5 years, where do you see yourself and your company going? And then also you talked about globalization, how that's changed. If we were talking in 5 years, where do you see businesses changing or veering to in that time frame in general?
Well, in 5 years, we'll have at least 10 advisors with us, and we'll be impacting, maybe 50 family businesses a year instead of where we are today. That's kind of our goal, our BHAG that we had established. So we're excited about that journey. And I believe that businesses are going to be engaging with clients, customers, and suppliers very differently with AI. I think AI is going to really have a disruptive impact on how the business of business happens. And I believe change is going to be faster than it is today. It's going to be at this rocket speed, and leaders have got to get their agility increased to be able to lead effectively through this change. If not, they'll become no longer relevant just a lot faster.
Well, thank you guys for listening. Hopefully you got some great numbers from Rob. If you're interested in AI, I've actually a lot more recent interviews with AI businesses on the podcast. So take a look at that. Please subscribe, please share, and go find Rob. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.